So they are important to the nation of Israel. They are a part of the nation of Israel. And they're black, so I don't know if that's why people were trying to kick them out. Anyway, let's look at this thing in verse number 8. Start at verse 8, 18:8. Are you there? Verse number 8. And Moses told his father-in-law all that Yahweh had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardship that had come upon them on the way, and how Yahweh had delivered them. Then Jethro rejoiced for all the good which Yahweh had done for Israel, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Jethro said, Blessed be the Lord who has delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and who has delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that Yahweh is greater than all the other Yahwehs or the other Elohims. Now, for in the very thing in which they behaved proudly, he was above them, talking about the gods of Egypt. Then Jethro, Ruel, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and other sacrifices to offer to Yahweh, and Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before Yahweh. Look at Pastor. Do you think Aaron, the high priest, and Moses would be sitting down, breaking bread, making sacrifices with the pagan priests? They wouldn't. So Jethro was not a pagan priest. The Midianites were not all pagan, idol-worshiping people. And they go fall into the family genealogy of Yeshua. So there's no way Aaron, the high priest, would have let them break bread and offer sacrifices in the name of Yahweh if he was worshiping other gods. Okay? Aaron, the high priest. Do you remember we looked at Aaron's family? Aaron had a son named Peninnah. And his wife, he married a woman from Putel. And Putel is Libya, northern Africa. That's where Aaron got his woman from. All this stuff is happening in Africa. Aaron, the high priest, got his wife from a woman who was from Put, which is one of Ham's grandsons, got her from northern Africa, had their son, and they named his son Peninnah, and that means bronze mouth, it means Negro, it means black. So he, after Aaron died, his son, his black son, was the high priest over Israel for 19 years. Peninnah, a black high priest of the nation of Israel. Now, the Jews won't tell you that. People that call themselves Jews, those type of people, folk over there in Israel right now, which are imposters in the sense of who they're talking about. They're the original Hebrew. They're Hebrew people. They're not. They're people that accepted Judaism and became, practicing that religion, called themselves Jews, and they said that's our nation over there, and they went over there and kicked the Palestinians out. And that's why they're fighting today. So, black people, all throughout the scripture. Now, Joseph, whose father was Jacob, who God changed his name to Israel, died in Egypt, and he turn to Genesis 50. Turn to Genesis 50. I hope they're gonna have my pictures ready now that they're here. Or my pictures gonna be ready that I sent to you. Get my pictures ready. So we wanted to dispel the idea that the Midianites were all idol worshippers and pagan people, and that we see their lineage in Yeshua. You don't have to kick them out because it was after the 10th generation. And the land of Egypt was important to the children of Israel because all throughout the scripture, you see Joseph in Israel. You see Jacob going back to Israel. When Mary and Joseph was in trouble with King Herod, where did God tell them to go? Is to Egypt. Egypt, place of refuge for the black people. Genesis 50, are you there? Now, okay, that's what I want. Genesis 50, okay? You with me? Okay. All right. Then Joseph fell on his father's face and wept over him and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, say physicians, They got physicians in Egypt way back then. They were the first folk doing surgery. Did you know that? They were the first folk doing surgery, the Egyptians. And embalming folk. These Egyptians, these black people, embalmed his father. So the physicians embalmed Israel. Israel, his name was changed from Jacob by God. 40 days were required for him, for such are the days required for those who are embalmed, and the Egyptians cried for 70 days. Now, why would the Egyptians be crying over Joseph's daddy? Because Joseph was the vice president of Egypt. Joseph was the top dog under Pharaoh. They found an Egyptian coin, an ancient Egyptian coin, and it had a picture of a man on it, and it was described as Joseph, the viceroy of Egypt. So there's archaeological documentation on Joseph being in Egypt and being in charge. They called him the viceroy or the governor of Egypt, Joseph, coinciding with the Bible. So that's why they were mourning, because it was Joseph's daddy. Now, when the days of the mourning were past, Joseph spoke to the household of Pharaoh, saying, "If now I have found favor in your eyes, please speak in the hearing of Pharaoh, saying," this is Jacob talking to his son Joseph, Israel, talking to his son Joseph. He said, the daddy said, "Tell Pharaoh that my father made me swear, saying, behold, I'm dying in my grave, which I dug for myself in the land of Canaan." He want to go back to that black land of Canaan. "There you shall bury me. Now, therefore, please let me go up and bury my father, and I will come back." This is Joseph talking to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said, "Go up and bury your father, as he has made you swear." So Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went all the servants of Pharaoh. Say, servants of Pharaoh. Say, these are Egyptians. Okay, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt. So all the top people went, as well as all the house of Joseph, his brothers, and his father's house. So you got Hebrews and you got Egyptians in this caravan on their way back to Canaan. Say, Egyptians and Hebrews in a big caravan. See, really, it was a memorial service, and it was like, how the motorcycles is going, and everybody got their lights on with their sticker on that says funeral. So it was like that, only they was on camels and donkeys and horses and stuff like that, and they on their way to Canaan. Now, so verse 8, as well as all the house of Joseph, his brothers, and his father's house. Only their little ones and their flocks and their herds were left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great gathering. Dang, they sure put him away nice. You ever heard that term? Anyway. Then when they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan River, and they mourned there for a great and very solemn lamentation. They was crying and mourning the death of Israel, Jacob. He observed 7 days of mourning for his father. And when the inhabitants or the citizens of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning at the threshing floor of Adad, they said, "This is a deep mourning of the who?" Who? Who did the funeral look like it was for? An Egyptian. The Canaanites, they in the land. They see this big old giant parade, procession, people coming, Egyptians, their horses, the chariots, the camels, and the crying. They said, well, it must be a funeral for an Egyptian. They ain't said nothing about no Hebrew or no Israelite. They all look like Egyptians to them. Now, Jacob took his whole family there, his sons and their wives and kids and so forth, and so they were living in Egypt, brother. So they all dressed like Egyptians. They all looked like Egyptians. They was all the same color as Egyptians. So when these Canaanites saw the parade, they said, oh, this is a funeral for an Egyptian. See, we live in America. Look how we dress. The people where we left Africa from, they don't dress like that, but this is how we dress because we in America. So the Hebrews was dressing like the Egyptians. Joseph looked like an Egyptian, the way he dressed and talked when his brothers didn't recognize him. This is a deep mourning for the Egyptians. Therefore, its name was called Abal Mizraim, which is beyond the Jordan, which means the mourning of the Egyptians, or the crying, or the lamentation, or the sadness of the Egyptians for this funeral. They all look the same to them. Now, is my pictures ready? I want to show you the Pharaoh. Now, King Tut or Tutankhamun is who the historians say was the Pharaoh at the time. Now, who does King Tut look like? Does he look like a white dude in any stretch of the imagination? Does he look like a white man? Let me show you his grandma, Queen T. T-I is the way it's spelled. That's his grandma. What she look like? Now, here's King Tut with his wife in the throne room. Next. King Tut and baby look black. That's what the folk looked like that was in this funeral, along with the Israelites, the Hebrew Israelites, along with them. There's your black history. There's part of your black history. I'm showing you all this because now we're finna read something where you're going to find this intermingling, this intermarriages, this coming together, this blending together of these people, these Egyptians and these Israelites. You know, why does God always have Israel flee back to Egypt when there's a problem? Why does he always have them go back there? They're familiar with that land. They must speak the language. They must communicate. They must can fit in with that nation. And biblically speaking, when they would always go back. Now, so now, so they buried his daddy. Joseph's still in charge. Look at verse 15 really quick. Genesis 50:15. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, man, Joseph's going to really hate us now. He going to get us now. He wouldn't mess with us while daddy was alive. And I bet you he ain't forgot that we was going to kill him and sold him. And may actually repay us for the evil which we did to him. So they sent messengers to Joseph saying, before your father died, he commanded, saying, thus you shall say to Joseph, I beg you, please forgive the trespass of your brothers. They reminded him of the email that daddy had put out, don't kill your brothers, and their sin. For they did evil to you. Now please forgive the trespasses of the servants of the God of your father. And Joseph cried when they spoke to him. Then his brothers also went and fell down before his face, and they said, behold, we are your servants. Remember he had that dream his brothers were going to be bowing down to him? Verse 19. Joseph said to them, do not be afraid, for I am in the place of Yahweh. But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good in order to bring it about to it is this day to save my people alive. Look, everything Joseph went through, it wasn't just for him. It was to keep his family safe. What you going through, what you went through, what your family did to you, it was to make you stronger, to make you better, to put you closer to God so that you could help them. See, when you're going through stuff, you think it's just you. No, you're going through something for somebody else. Because you learning something. Joseph learned something by what he went through. It was for this moment his brothers was guilty all this time. They're holding this in their heart all the time. Man, we sold him. Man, we was going to kill him. I know he's going to get us back. They living in guilt all these years. And Joseph forgave them. See, and watch this. They were still thinking about the evil. Joseph wasn't even thinking about it. See, you get around people and you don't act funny, you don't act mad, and they guilty. They're like, ooh, why he's acting so nice? Why is she acting so nice? Because you know your assignment. Say, I know my assignment. Joseph's assignment was to save his family. If Joseph had not been in Egypt, Israel would have died. Israel would have died from the famine. It was 7 years of famine. And they go back to Egypt with their hat in their hand trying to buy some grain so they could live. And there their brother is in charge. And save the whole nation. It's Stop feeling sorry and holding a grudge and tripping. You went through it so that you could be a blessing to somebody else in your family. They talked about you so that you could be a blessing to them. They didn't know it. When Florence and I, when our family members was talking about us and tripping over us when our lifestyle changed, they didn't know. They didn't know I was going to be standing here. My daughter Charmaine, she ran track. And, from 8-year-old on up. And we would travel throughout the nation, running in different track meets throughout the different states. And we was with this one club, and the man there was acting kind of wacky and crazy. And so we started our own club. And so they made me the president of the club. So I was the president of the club, and we ran the club for a couple of years, and the kids were still traveling and doing their thing. And then when God called me, I told him I can't be the president no more. God called me to pastor. And you know what they told me? Why? They didn't tell me congratulations. They didn't tell me God bless you. They told me you shouldn't leave. You helped us start this. And they talked about me. Yeah, they talked about me. Now, I couldn't let that change me. I couldn't let that alter me. I couldn't let that affect me. He called me to do this, not just for me, but for so many other people. And those people weren't family members. Those were just people we was, doing business with, in that arena. But then the same thing with our family members. They would come over to our house. No, y'all can't smoke. No, y'all can't drink. No, we ain't doing that. No, you can do that over here. They talked about us. But then, and those same ones that talked about us wound up coming to us. Wound up burying some of them. Wound up marrying some of them. Wound up counseling some of their kids. Wound up counseling them. Wound up helping them get through stuff. But only because of Yahweh had put this in me and on me to go through that so I could be here. And Joseph went through jail, went through being sold out, so he can be there to bring salvation to his family. So whatever you're dealing with right now, say, I'm going through it for my family. See, and it might be your current family, or it might be the family that's on the way. Years ago, I was always teaching about a godly heritage, I did not want my kids to grow up and go through what I went through. I wasn't even thinking about grandkids then, but now that the grandkids are here, I see the fruit. I see the fruit of the seeds that I sown back in 1984 through my grandkids, through what they're now exposed to and around, as to what I was exposed to and was around as a child. That affected my life, that affected my family's life. See, you're into the things of God now. See, I'm saved, I'm going to heaven, I got this relationship with God. It ain't just for you. You make salvation selfish. Salvation is not just for me. It's for the ones that I can affect. Here we are. We finished. Look at this. Exodus chapter 1. And all this stuff been here in the Bible all the time. Now, these are the names of the children of Israel, not Jews. Say, not Jews. Say, the nation of Israel. Say, the original nation. Say, the original people. Not the ones over there now. That's just the truth. These are the names of the children of Israel who came to Egypt. Each man and his household came with Jacob, which is the father whose name was changed to Israel. Here's his brothers, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. That's y'all here in America. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. All those who were descendants of Jacob were 70 persons. And for Joseph was in Egypt already, and Joseph died, and all his brothers, and all that generation. But the children of Israel were what? They were what? They were fruitful and did what? Increased abundantly. They multiplied and grew exceedingly mightily, and the land was filled with them. Look at Pastor. It said Jacob that brought his family there. How many of them was it? It was 70. Out of that 70, the historian says it was 53 men. So where did those 53 men get their wives from? Where those 53 men, where was they dating at? They was in Egypt dating and mating. So it's intermingled. It's intermingled. We're intermingled with Egypt. All that blood is running through all the children. I'll say all the children of Israel. And the Egyptians you see now have been mingled with other people. The ones with the straight hair and the lighter skin, those ain't the original ones. Those aren't the original Mitzrayim. Those aren't the original Egyptians. You saw how black Tutankhamun was. Just as a truth statement. So, the children of Israel mingled and mangled with the Egyptians. And the original children of Israel, not Jews, were black people. The original people from the tribe of Judah were, and now, are black people. I'm doing this teaching to help you accept who you are. I'm doing this teaching to help you accept who you are. It's been in here all the time. The word Hebrew, let me pronounce it right, I hope. The word Hebrew means Avri. There it is, Avri. And Avri means those who have crossed over. It don't mean white people. It don't really mean black people. It means those who have crossed over from sin and death into light and life with God. Those are the Hebrews. So, even those that cross over and come out of sin, God says he's engrafted all the nations into Israel, those that receive Yeshua. So, but for us to know who we are and to stop getting excited about February, get excited about Genesis chapter 2. Get excited about the pyramids. That was your great God knows how many great granddaddy out there moving them blocks and building that pyramid and doing the math for it, doing the architect for it, and them things are still standing by black people. Amen? I'm through.